That's all right. That's all right.
Well, hey, I know of a couple people that are not joining, and then there's a couple others I haven't heard from. So I don't know how large the group's going to be today. Thankfully, I can report that all has been due to uh, client calls, which is awesome. So um, I hope you guys are kind of feeling the same thing. I know we are here. As some of you were coming on, we were joking a little bit that the metrics are just off. So there are some days where it feels so damn busy, and which is great. But it's also less folks. So which leads us to our first topic. I'm gonna jump right in. Our first topic was how are you approaching the hiring process as business ramps up again? Rehiring, bringing in new talent, or evaluating the entire hiring process. I'm going to jump on Steve first and let you weigh in.
All right. Not rehiring anybody. The folks that we let go have gone on to something completely different. This time around, at the moment, we're looking for a project manager and taking a different approach. Joan is working with, and as I am working with as well, a staffing company called Accloche. So they are going to be vetted by them, outside sources, and they will funnel candidates to us. So they're a little more pre-qualified by the time they get to us. Um, I
Steve,
know
if
that
you don't
they're,
mind me asking,
yes.
on that, we've done that before in the past couple times. Where are they charging as a premium, and for how long?
Now that I don't know. Joan is working with their owner. We are in a business networking group with them, so I don't know if it's going to be some trade and some cost. But that that is beyond where I am at. But at this point in time, I know the last two hires that we had, we just did from word of mouth, and they didn't end up being very successful. They weren't the culture folks that we needed that in this industry work not just Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. They found that the other hours and times, even after they said, "Oh yeah, we get it," just didn't jibe with their personal schedules. So that doesn't work very well with what we all do. So we're trying a different approach, and I know that there's a couple of people coming in for interviews this week. So I think I'm excited about the different approach to try and find a new avenue to find the right connection that we're looking for. So I'm excited for that, and the fact that we are looking to hire somebody back, because right now I am um, half-ass project manager and sales and somewhat of an installer. So getting some bodies in to help so I can do more on the street and bringing stuff back in, um, is where my stronger point is. So I'm excited for that.
That's awesome. What positionally, kind of, what's are you targeting a PM
Yes.
out of the
Yep.
gates? Okay.
Yep. Project manager and, sweeper, cleaner, driver, setter upper, whatever it takes. So we're supposed to have a couple good candidates. I think one later this afternoon, and then another one or two here before the end of the week. So pretty excited about that. And the Accloche group has been around, I think, 40 or 50 years, and got a really good vibe about that. So excited at who they're going to be bringing in for us to talk to. So and we've just seen crazy increases in opportunities when it comes to the main work that has sustained us over the last year. It's crazy what's happening around here. We are opening new vaccine stations, kind of like pop-up booths, um, and closing them almost as quickly as they get set up. Um, my opinion is that those who want the vaccine have already gotten it, and and now they're not even looking to schedule people. They're taking walk-ins with no appointments, and just finding it not very fruitful. So we're doing much more minimalistic, but spreading them around more places on campus for the medical center here in Columbus. So
Nice. We have an employee who's, you'll be proud to know, whose daughter was accepted in, and after doing her tour, she accepted the scholarship to the Ohio State University. So I'll make sure, and she'll be looking for a college job.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? We will definitely chat. There are all kind of opportunities here at the.
Well, the interesting note someone made to me the other day on a phone call was, as they were going through the hiring process and starting to rehire for certain positions, people who are interested in working, I don't say that tongue in cheek, it's a real challenge, but people who are interested in working are actually pretty excited when they learn about the industry, because they see that it has this huge upside for at least the next 2 years. So I think people are, if you get the right person, they see that they've got a pretty nice runway for potential advancement over the next couple of years.
Absolutely. Well, one of the greatest memes I've seen was I'm sure it was fake, but it was impressive. The marquee at a McDonald's, it says, "Our shake machine is working. How about you?"
That's cute.
That was a classic.
So Gwen, how about you? How are you guys approaching the rehiring process? Or are you looking for new talent? Or I know you guys have been, ahead of us a little bit. So talk about that.
Well, I mean, for us, we had built up a team. We've always been a team under 10, so we're small anyway. But I have to say, right before the pandemic, we had ramped up pretty good. Like we were at our 10 and going great. And then, of course, everything fell apart. So we're back down to the core team, but we did recently in Q1 hire, and so I laughed about the college comment, but we hired someone pretty much straight out of college. He has his real estate license, but he's been very just hands-on and learning everything he can. I like like every few hours he'll pop into somebody's office and it's like, so why do people have to hire a union and what do they do? And I said, I need to sign you up for prescriptions, class. He's got all these sessions with a forklift driver, and let me go pick up that box for you type thing. Anyway, so he's loving it. But otherwise we're kind of in a standstill, just waiting for people to, as I said last week in a management meeting, release the funds. That's really it. We've got, it's been an interesting, last year we had more companies say, hey, I want to put you in for the budget for when things start coming back. So that's on people's budget list. So that's a plus, but it's not there yet to close them. So we would like to hire more. We have not had much success with outside sources. So, referrals, people who know somebody, that obviously is better for us.
Okay.
But kind of holding strong with what we got.
And are you, if you had to predict, or is it purely based on when customers pull triggers? And then if it is, are you anticipating that like summertime or more towards the fall?
It's been interesting is we've had people, so it's the exhibit house side we've worked with on like installment plans because people want to take this time to reorg themselves. It's a opportunity for them to say, hey, now I've got time to implement this system in the way that I want, or I want to start with barcoding now. I mean, it's been interesting in that kind of scope. But as far as, predicting, we do, like I said, we are kind of looking, if you will, just for another sales rep at this time. Our account management team also act as sales reps whenever we need that extra, hey, make some calls and, of course, making those things happen. But as far as the activity and the, like, based on the client activity, as far as in their databases, it's over 200% in this time last year and still going. I mean, that's been
Wow.
since January. And that's what our dev team is kind of looking at, is how many projects are going into the systems.
Wow.
Yeah. So the industry is on its way back for sure, but I think everybody is kind of in that, okay, we're getting incremental funds and, and I think that's just going to continue as, like you said, and Steve, I think you said it best, we're all vaccinated at our company and being in Texas, we have been here, since May. Everybody else is still trying to figure out how to go back to work. And I'm like, how is it that I only had 2 months at home? But that's a whole other topic. And then, but we are all vaccinated. So last week we got to have our first official team meeting with no mask. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
There's hope.
Rob, how about you? What are you hearing out there?
So certainly hearing, and it's interesting, even congressional offices are acknowledging it quietly, not in writing, that folks aren't going to want to come back to work so quickly through September, and they're going to enjoy their time on their couch through the summer or doing what it is they're doing. The president came out last night and said, hey, if you're offered a job, you got to take it or you're going to lose your unemployment benefits. Well, yeah, tell me how you're going to police that for the millions of people that are sitting out there. So I think that will continue to be a real challenge. So September, I think, is the magic time on everyone's calendar when there's going to be a flood of people looking for jobs. And that'll open things up. For us, the folks we laid off, I only know, and I stay in touch with the folks we laid off, I only know of 2 who have picked up other full-time gigs, and others that are waiting in the sidelines, waiting to come back. Tom will find this scary, but some people actually are looking forward to come back to work with us, even if they're engaging with me. And, so we're not ready to pull the trigger on that yet because we don't see that volume of work. Certainly quotations are up. Some small orders are coming in. People are poking around about bigger projects, but obviously if you guys are quoting and we're quoting you, it doesn't trickle down till 30 days after you get the order maybe. My real big concern is that all of your customers, are going to have those same short time frame expectations. And sure, we got inventory now, that's not a problem, but there's going to come a point in time when it's going to become a real problem.
Agree. Dan, how about you guys?
Just to piggyback off what Rob said really quick before we go to the topic, the whole turnaround time thing, I think that's going to be the major bottleneck of our industry, and that's going to be kind of rough going for a while, I think. So we're definitely not going to be used to that, our circle and you guys, where it's like, okay, I need this tomorrow, I need this next week. Well, it's not going to happen, so that's going to be a downside. As far as hiring, we're a smaller company, so I don't feel like I need to plan that much ahead. I mean, it's almost to the point where it's like, well, right before I lose my mind, that's when I'm gonna start. That's when we're gonna bring people on again. So we're not a huge company by any means. So I think we're able to make decisions a little more, quickly based on that.
So I'll share with you guys. We've had a series of really great calls. Like I've got this roster of folks, when you're calling them back and kind of looking at when we, hopefully can bring them back and kind of setting some markers in the sand of like, potentially June 15th for this person or July 1st for this person, whatever. And I got the most excited response. I called and the guy who answered, he was like, "Oh my gosh," he goes, "Kevin, I've been waiting for this call." I was like, "Oh, great." He was my first call, and said, I've been waiting for this call. So give him the whole lowdown, and the way the state of Oregon works is a little bit differently in that we've got this work share program. And so I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring you back at 4 days a week. He works in our wood fab department. So we'll bring you back at 4 days a week. And then with the federal additional, as well as the 1 day covered by the state, I did the math. I was like, you'll actually be making $1 a week more than you were when you were fully employed. And he was like, "Oh, that's great." And kind of sat there and did a little bit of a, 3-4 second pause. And he was like, "Can we do this in September?" And I've known him forever. And so I was just like, I'm just going to be honest with you. You went from number 1 on my list to number 30 on my list. I said, honestly, because I don't know if the job's going to be there when that time comes. And he was like, well, hopefully it will be. And it just was kind of a downer. But so far, for the most part, the people that we have talked to, we've been able to bring back. They were excited to come back, even if it was for 3 days a week. And again, that same structure of being able to tap into our work share program. And that allows us a little bit more flexibility. And thankfully, quite a few of them are still kind of out there waiting, and I think are going to wait through the summer. So hopefully when that comes, that last minute comes, we'll be able to get some of that travel knowledge back. But we'll see. Tom?
I was going to say I know there's 2 states, one of which is South Carolina and another southern state, are voting to suspend the $300 a week additional federal funds. And I think it's timely. It's probably good because it'll force people to be back into the workforce and help us avoid these situations where people don't want to come back.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, but the problem is that, and you go to West Virginia and Rhode Island, and they're offering you an extra 100 if you come get your vaccine, or the Rhode Island governor is going to start handing out gift cards using federal relief money to stimulate local spending. We've never been through this before. I'm not criticizing anyone for this, but every little fiefdom is operating the way they want to, and taking the dollars that we're all going to have to be paying back down the road, and doing what they want with them rather than what's good for the overall good, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to have to all individually navigate our way through that.
Hey, Dick, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're just in time. So it's your turn. How are you approaching the hiring process as business ramps back up? Are you going to looking to rehire people, look for new folks? What's happening there?
Well, it's kind of a mix of all of that. I think with some of our people, we're starting to talk about bringing them back 3 days a week, and we've actually been talking to them. And they seem to want to come back. They want to start working again. And so we're seeing some of that. And that's more in probably some of the estimating and project management side. We pretty much made the decision for the most part, the remaining part of this year is probably outsource most of the designs and detailing drawing. Because we don't know when that's actually going to fully come back. We're doing a lot more renderings and estimating, but it's awful hard to commit to somebody. And there's so many people out there right now that are good designers. We had a staff of about 5, and we don't have any of them right now. And the graphic design side there's so many people out there that are available that we decided, at least for the remaining part of this year, until we really get bogged down, to probably outsource most of that. Some of the biggest concerns on that would be maybe more graphic facilitation, as the graphics come in, moving them to the right production, make sure they're sized right, and so on and so forth. So that might be a little bit of a hitch that we've got to figure out. Most of our carpenters have found more part-time work. We've got about 2 of them back full-time, 4 days a week. We've got about the other 3 or 4 of them are waiting till probably the end of August when pretty much the money runs out in theory. So they said they're good till about August. They understand what's going on in the industry. We're hoping that, we'll get, the jobs are just starting to open up. So we're starting to from a production standpoint. The 2 guys right now can handle it. But we're probably here sometime and we're figuring, and depending upon how fast things start coming back, probably mid to late May, actually starting calling some of those people back. In the project management side, we're probably going to start looking for new people, maybe not bringing back some of the current people. It's also maybe an opportunity to correct some of the things that probably need correcting, that maybe at the time we were too busy to deal with it, but it was probably something we need to deal with anyway. That's a little bit where we're kind of situated. So we'll probably bring back some of that kind of talent, maybe new, at least first, and then bring back some of the other people who probably fit our culture as we start seeing the volume truly picking up. The biggest concern is bringing them back and laying them off, bringing them back and laying them off. Typically, the hourly guys are maybe more used to that, but for so many years we haven't needed to do any of that, that I don't think anybody necessarily wants to do that. One of my carpenters actually said the other day, says, I'll never complain about having too much work again. And I hope that we get back to that sometime soon here. And our biggest concern is, we're really seeing the bottleneck starting to probably late August and really September, October, where we may not be able to handle it all. And that's a concern. And because we aren't going to have necessarily all the interior backup manpower available. So carpentry-wise, we think we've got the guys lined up, but I'm a little concerned about some of that. And a lot of people are going to be doing a lot of other jobs that maybe didn't necessarily in the past would have been doing. And as we get deeper into the year, hopefully that we're building our staff at that point in time and really rebuilding our company. That's what we're doing. We had about 44 people working at one point in time. We probably have either furlough or laid off the people that we know are going to be back. We'll probably be up to about 20 to 25 people year end, and then start building from there. And most of that from there is probably going to be new people. So I hope I answered your question. At least that's where we're sitting right now.
Very well. We're and this isn't a commercial for Classic. I know a couple other manufacturers are doing the same thing in their rehiring process is kind of focusing on those project management and detailer positions, because for us, the detailers can also run all of our CNC machinery. So that gives them sort of dual purpose right now. But then as things come back and design, we've got the bulk of our design team intact, which is great. And what that allows us to do is help offlet some of those, because you hit on a interesting point, which is, when do you hire people to do graphic layouts? When do you hire to do the schematics, make sure everything is there? So we've been focused on that, trying to, and like I said, I know a couple other manufacturers as well are taking the same tact of making sure those services are available so that our customer base, our distributor partner base, doesn't have to necessarily hire back those positions yet, if we can do that as part of the sales process and the build process. But it's and the other part is really, we start next week. I don't think Katina doesn't even know this, but we start next week with our project managers doing training on the rental side of the business. We did the training of them with the rental project managers on the purchase side of the business, so that they're a little bit more, they're well versed on both sides. And what we're kind of looking at on the organizational chart is that it allows us a broader reach. So if you've got a rental project, whether it's a rental project or it's a purchase project, you can work with the same PM, number one. And as we all kind of navigate what sales are going to look like for the next year, it'll help us prevent having to necessarily bring back 4 or 5 other project managers. So, but it's a monthly challenge, you know, identifying what the new tripping hazards are.
Kevin,
Hey, Kevin, I wanted to just chime in for a quick second. 2 things. One thing that we've heard from the industry as far as exhibit house companies outsourcing a lot of it because they're not in the position to bring them on and they don't want to yet until things really start going. And then the other, which is interesting, so on the corporate exhibitor side on one of their calls for the advocacy committee, what's interesting is the staffing companies are just super busy because everybody is going through staffing companies to fill the booth. So they're not sending their people just yet and just hiring staffing companies to fill that role.
So World of Concrete has a couple big examples of that we ran into on there's one that's a rental project, and come to find out they're only going to have 2 employees in this pretty decent sized rental island with a double deck. They have 2 of their own employees, and they have a staffing company providing the rest of the staff.
Yeah.
Rob, what were you saying?
2 things come to mind. One is that the point that you and Richard both made that I think is critical is individuals multitasking and, you know, cross training and doing a variety of jobs. And I think that, and Steve, you alluded to it as well, that's going to be critical going forward if anyone hopes to get the job done. The other thing is, you know, on the staffing side for booths, I think what's also really interesting right now is watching how folks are staffing the shows, not just with outside people, but limiting who they're bringing because of anticipation of smaller crowds. So none of which is a bad thing if we're talking about not overcrowding within an indoor facility. Granted, if we're vaccinated, it's not as big of an issue, but who knows what's around the corner. But I think it's going to be interesting for exhibitor show. I know they've reached out to a number of, they're going through tiers, reaching out to exhibitors right now as the space got moved to another place and the floor plan's been changed to figure out where folks will be. I'm already giving thought as to how many people I really need to have there. I mean, we'll be there, but.
Well, and that show has two big challenges. I mean, we've got our space, but you know, as we get closer, we're going to make that decision as well. Part of it, what is not just that it's going to be potentially smaller attendance, but even so we're in a little bit different space, right? Many of the people on the show floor are our customers,
right.
And a lot of those AEs, because of when that show is, they may be at other events with their clients.
Yeah.
And so
how many of you are you ready to travel to Las Vegas for November 1st and 2nd?
Well, I'm ready to go.
Well, what I'm saying is, you know, of the house, on the house side, you know, I mean, yeah, the vendors will be there, but you're all mortified about what your workload's going to be, right?
Yes.
That's a good thing to be mortified about. But I think we've got you know, a lot going on right now, trying to figure things out.
There is. I'm glad they shortened that up to a 2-day event.
Yes.
I think that was very wise. But it's going to be definitely going to be a challenge.
Yep.
So our second topic, how are you managing, and we've all kind of touched on this, but a little bit, but not dug deep. How are you managing clients' expectations as they approach face-to-face meetings? I'm going to jump in first because Dan was saying this, and Dan, have you go after me, was kind of talking about, you know, the timelines, and I think that's the most critical thing. I made a joke here the other day, which God forbid it becomes a reality, but you know, my biggest fear is that we're going to end up on the third week of August with 145 exhibits set up waiting for graphics. Mainly because people seem to be willing to commit right now to getting the build process going, which is awesome for their fall shows, and they're proactive in that regard. But there's no thought to, and I get it, because they're like, well, we kind of want to wait until we can see, and you know, see what the show's going to be like, and who's going to be there, what the attendance is going to look like, and then we'll decide kind of, you know, how we're going to do our final graphic layout and whatnot. But we're really encouraging, as I know you all are, of, you know, there's you know, pre-plan, number one. If you can get it built here in the next couple months, you're going to be ahead of the game. But then there's another factor there that is part of that encouragement, and we're being pretty open and honest with people. We did a pretty big bid yesterday for which looks like it's going to happen, but it's for a couple $100,000 build, and for one of our distributor partners. And we told them, we said, we can hold the price until June 1st. You need to let your client know that, because we know we're getting another aluminum increase in the beginning of June, and we know that we're getting another wood increase. And to give you guys a sense for that, we have one of our sheet goods that we buy in units has gone from pre-pandemic $21.50, I think, a sheet, to about $33 a sheet. And that increase has just gone in place since February. So it's ratcheted that quickly, and it's anticipated to go up more. So we're starting on especially larger builds to sort of put that into the equation of, we're not trying to get you to spend your money early, although it would be great to have the summer to build something big, but even on some smaller ones where, you know, your graphics are fine, your cases right now are fine, but the aluminum prices, you know, you could see, you know, we can hold this price till June 15th, and then it may stay the same, but it may not. I think that's a barrier right now that is going to be potentially very large for a lot of the houses out there, and it makes it hard to do quality estimating right now on large custom builds. But Dan, do you want to jump in on managing client expectations?
Yeah, and I think Kevin, you had some really good points on that. You know, as far as, you know, what basically I was talking the other day around here, like the more things change, you know, the more they're going to stay the same. And you know, the client is always going to expect things to be the way things were before, and they're going to behave the way they did before. And that's not, you know, that's just how human beings are, right? So, you know, I'm trying, because I'm doing the same thing too. Like if a key account calls me and asks me like, well, when can I get this by? I'm like I'm just an autopilot, you know, but I'm stopping myself and remembering that, you know, wait a second, like things are not the same. So that's the main thing for me. You know, for you, Kevin, it's materials and the turn times. For me, it's like all about turn times, because, you know, not really have a lot of sawdust back here in our warehouse, you know, but that's going to be the main thing for us, is the turnaround time. So I figure as long as I say it, get it in writing to the client, you know, that's the best I can do in that regard.
So we had as a small order, we had a counter prospect just for a custom counter, and did everything that you said. The distributor partner did, and they came back this morning and they said, you know what, we actually want to use this for an event next Wednesday. Like, well, would you consider a rental? Right. Showed them what a rental would look like. They're like, well, I mean, it's the same shape, but it doesn't look the same. Like, well, yeah, one's custom wood fab, the other one's an aluminum with infills, but it's the same shape. And if you want something for next Wednesday, or if the client wants something for next Wednesday, we can get them that. And so the clients are feeling it, and I think they know it, but they're going to still ask the question, you know, can we get it earlier? But
and most clients are very understanding, you know, for the most part. But I don't think the buying behavior is going to change anytime soon. I think it's going to be more on us to like get it into our heads that, you know, to communicate these things, like what is the reality of turn times, what's the reality of materials, and, you know, sort of try to monitor that as close to real time as we can, you know, because production schedules are going to be, I think, very strange moving forward. That also goes back to the hiring. You know, when you realize you have A, B, and C and D on the books now, it's like, okay, well, we can make decisions based on this. You know, so it's going to be a lot more of really honing in on what's the reality that day, that hour. So.
Yeah, you hit on something. I mean, I remember back in 2009, a very large, well-known custom manufacturer with multiple locations we were on a call, and I said, so our orders with you guys are just going off the charts, you know. And it was helpful for us, you know, we're in the middle of a recession, but it was helpful for us. And I said, you know, a couple of them were literally decent size. I mean, on the wholesale side, they were, you know, in excess of $150,000. They said, we can't afford to even turn on our saws for that. And that's the part I'm wondering what that part of the industry looks like coming out of this. Like, where's their trigger point when they can afford to sort of turn on their machine? They would have to have a consistent number of those projects coming through, I would think, to be able to really, you know, time that right. But Katina, from a design perspective, what are you guys seeing as far as, you know, you're at the front end here. So as people are looking, are most of the stuff that you're working on for fall shows? Are there folks that are coming in with late requests for, you know, June and July events?
Yeah, well, before I answer that question though, I wanted to just comment on one thing, talking about, you know, different unemployment benefits, this and that. I just think it's important to be careful not to put everyone lump everyone in one group, like, oh, they're lazy if they don't want to go back to work or this or that. I have someone I know very well in the industry who survived, you know, up to this point without being laid off, but had their pay cut pretty significantly, and now just as of this month has been laid off. So, you know, now there's really scrimpy unemployment. I mean, I don't know, not like, oh, it's not fair, they didn't get that because they're 600, but like, it's kind of, you know, this isn't a lazy person. They've been working hard. They've been underpaid. They're tired and exhausted. And now they're going to have to try and like jump right back in and find another job and start, you know, killing themselves all over again. They haven't had a break. Anyway, just friends I know, different situations, and also being in charge of the Women in Exhibitions group. A lot of the stuff you guys have been saying totally rings true with what we've all been talking about. People wanting to hire contractors to minimize the risk of having to hire and fire and hire and lay off and all of these sorts of things. Just a lot of trepidation. Nobody really knows what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. So, you know, I think we're all feeling cautious, optimistic, but very cautiously so. Just across the board, that's what I'm hearing. So design team wise, yes, we're getting quite a bit more requests than we've had in the last year, just very consistently, lots of requests. A lot of things that are coming back from like a year ago. We designed something, oh, my client's back, they want to buy this now, but you know, maybe make a couple tweaks or something. But also some new requests and some large builds, small builds, a lot of portable, you know, easy for the clients to manage themselves. I think that's sometimes if the client is feeling really nervous also about the future and budgets and whatnot, they're trying to think of how they can minimize, you know, set things up themselves or go to a smaller space or all of the above. So There's a lot of people planning though. There's a lot of people planning whether their show happens or not, whether they know if it's like for sure not getting canceled yet. They're getting ready for it.
Cool. Cool. Steve.
Quoting and talking about timelines right now, I kind of jokingly use the date of it'll be ready by the 12th of November, and then tell them that it's fluid. It's kind of like day trading, and the stocks every day, it's up, it's down, it's sideways. And we just ask, honestly, the best way that you're going to get it done in the time that you need it is to commit now and then know that you've got it, because otherwise everybody virtually has graphics, at the very least graphics that are over a year old without being redone. So worst case scenario, if we can get them either to use some of our rental stock in-house for the smaller stuff, or them just updating their graphics, then they're prepared. But so many of them still just aren't even back into the workplace yet, let alone thinking about traveling and having to go back out and do a show. We've had more interest in more tabletop banner stands, very Spartan stuff for more regional shows that a lot of our clients are planning to come back with. Just a smaller, more personal kind of approach, and kind of dividing and conquering versus the bigger displays. But yeah, that's going to be the big fight. And it just seems like with anything else, the log jam is going to come. Everybody's going to want something bigger, more custom at the same time. And then we're all going to be in a very odd boat trying to figure out how to get the water that's rushing in out and everything produced. When you were talking about World of Concrete, one of my longest partners expressed a lot of frustration to me that they were downsized. They removed the hall, I forget which hall that they were in, but they canceled that hall, had moved them, and they have been involved in the show for decades. And they found out about it through an email, not anyone contacting them. So they were extremely frustrated because they were very excited for this new spot that they were moving into from the previous year. So it's changed everything that we had planned to do with them, and they are just going to shore up and use smaller bits of the custom display that you guys did for them a few years ago and just make it work in a smaller configuration. So that has been a bummer, because I know we had been talking about, Tom, we talked about doing that 20 by 30 foot wall with the new spot that they were going up to.
Mhm.
And then once that word came down, all of that came to an end. So I don't know about any other folks, but that's my only partner that I've got at World of Concrete. So there was a lot of frustration with that. So there's been just more very small things to do for them, tabletops, things that they can just have on hand and be able to be very portable and send virtually anybody out, even me, to do a setup for a show for them with whatever they need. So it's that just seems to be a lot of people are looking to dip the toes into the water instead of jumping in. And I've still got a number of new items that are a year old sitting in my office waiting to deliver when clients get back to the office. And June is the earliest that I hear, and more along the lines of August and September. So it's just it's nuts. So yeah, we're preaching prepare now and be ready. And if you're ready to go, and if not, then you're going to be putting out old stuff. And why take the chance of not making the deadline when you know everything around you is cost is increasing, time is increasing. It happens with us as well, and it's going to be a sour taste.
It's interesting. You said the referencing dipping the toe in the water. We're seeing a lot of inlines for the June, July, and early August events, and the islands outside of World of Concrete, we've got some stuff for there, but outside of that, all the islands that we're working on right now, whether it's their design or they're in the shop, even a couple, they're for fall shows, and some of them are for similar industries, but they're going, try it out, let's see what this looks like, let's see how it feels, and then when we have our bigger event in the fall, we'll take the bigger exhibit. But there's a caveat there that you can already sense coming, like if there was any blip or something along the way, they've got something small that they can still take to a fall event. So
Sure.
And the committee, the commitment on space, that's the other thing. I've read a couple articles about. The final commitment on space is really tenuous right now in some events where they've got contracts with folks, but people are sort of reserving kind of that final payment until they know for sure that they're going to go. And I think the same thing we're going to feel on the build side is it's like, yes, we want it. We're going to get you the order on August 15th for the October 15th show. And if we get that order by September 1st, we should be overjoyed, because I think people are going to wait until the very last minute on some of those.
Another thing that I'm curious about, just with all the effects and the situation with unemployment and such, are the labor at the shows and the quality of labor, what they've had to do over the last year and change, and what the quality of that labor is coming back for the fall as well.
For the fall, is going to be, I think, I think keep an eye on. I know Vegas has done the Teamsters there have 1,500 people ready to go on their roster, and they're seasoned. So that's good coming into World of Concrete. I think that'll be helpful. And I know the Northeast Carpenters Union is prepped and ready for, Philly, Atlantic City, New York. So they've got a good roster there that has been able to keep intact. Chicago, I haven't heard a ton of, but Tom can address that. I think you've got big cities that are pretty well ready on the union side. On the EAC side, I know that's a lot of those companies are they're like the rest of us. They're kind of waiting on who to bring back and when, just to be prepped and ready to go. But what were you going to say, Tom?
I was going to say I had an opportunity a couple Fridays ago to talk to a VP in a Teamsters union, and he pretty much said the same thing of what you heard about the Vegas Teamsters. And he said 1,500 members waiting for things to open up, and that's all well and good. But I think to your point about the EACs, or the labor companies, is that labor companies have lost a lot of good lead guys, shop floor or the show floor leads, and those are really the guys that we depend on, or the industry depends on to manage the Teamsters on, and so it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out.
Agreed.
And do you have something you want to add? So you had raised your hand earlier.
Yeah, and I think this is probably a topic for another time, what you guys are talking about, but any sweeping changes by the general contractor, that's going to be interesting to see what happens, regarding labor, regarding what they expect from their client, our client, and us, as far as, coordination of the show. So, that's something I'm kind of closely watching, because that could, I'm already seeing, changes, even with material handling, EAC timelines, all kinds of things. And I think there's more to come. So I think that will be something we'll have to adapt to, and in turn our clients will.
Great.
That's all I got.
How about you, managing client expectations? What are you guys looking at?
Are you talking to Dick?
Yeah.
Oh,
To me?
okay.
Dick?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we actually took it from a couple different avenues. We initially took it from the marketing side. I sent a letter out to all of our clients, basically explaining what the potential problem was, not only from a cost, but also from a timing standpoint. And then we've been doing, we had a series of blogs, follow-up, that had to do with some of the loss of labor, shipping costs that are going to go up, just a lot of different things. And we took them in a progressive manner. While we're doing that, we actually had our salespeople calling all the clients, their clients, and emailing them, trying to get things going. And we've tried to explain that there's going to be a potential bottleneck here all of a sudden if everybody wants to go in, and things in the past, we're not going to be able to react like we did in the past today, in the future. And it's not just us, it's the industry as a whole. So try to get ahead. If you think you're going to go to show, try to get ahead. Well, we actually had 2 or 3 right now that some large warehouse accounts that want their whole display set up for new graphics, and then they're going to pack it up and put it away for their fall shows. That'll help us a lot, because you can't just continue to eat up space like you were saying and not have them sit there because you can't get them finished. You got to put them away, and otherwise it kills your efficiencies.
Mhm.
You know, and some of the other concerns that I have is not only from a cost standpoint, from raw materials, but also shipping. You know, we're hearing now shipping to only guarantee 7-day in advance, because they're taking the best rates they can on the next load, these common carriers. And we use pretty much all shippers who go to trade shows on a regular basis, but they're kind of giving us the same thing. There's a concern on guaranteeing some prices. Not that we on shipping ever guarantee prices, but boy, you could get some radically increased prices, and now we got to try to explain that to the client. And probably the last biggest concern I got is a lot of our clients no longer have trade show marketing people. And just the other day, as a large client said, well, we're going to start depending upon you to handle basically everything. I'm going, oh, that's great. We'll be happy to do that. But we got to get it going then, because we don't have the people either.
Mhm.
And so I think that honesty, and the hardest things we can as salespeople is we don't want to say no. That's not what our industry has done. Is we always say yes and we get it accomplished. And this is going to be different this year, because we plain and simple probably can't get everything done like we had in the past, and specifically at the last minute. Those last graphic things, those last changes that they want. There just may not be the manpower or the printing capabilities or the manufacturing capabilities or whatever it happens to be, because they're just not the bodies and the capabilities right now until we can build it back up. And I don't think that's going to happen until probably 2022, once we really start seeing things start returning to some normalcy where we all can feel comfortable. Okay, let's get our company back to full staffing. And so I think that the key, though, is to constantly informing our clients that there's going to be changes and it's not business as usual. And that's hard, because salespeople want to say, yes, we can do anything. And we do have to take that step back, like Dan said, and so say, no, well, hold on a second, let me check. Let me find out, because we just probably can't right now. Not saying we can't. Today we could do anything. In 3 weeks or 3 months, I mean, it could be a world of difference. And pricing is a big problem. We just had a conversation with our leadership team. How long are we going to guarantee pricing now? Because it is changing that fast, depending upon the raw materials. And it's an interesting problem with the supply chain problem we've got in this country, and building construction being so crazy right now. And that's this building, it's gonna get worse and the wood raw materials, not better.
Yes.
It's getting eaten up. And we're not even at full steam yet in the home building side of things. At some of the highest levels we've ever seen, it's gonna continue to grow. And that's gonna raise prices. That's where inflation's gonna start kicking in fast. That would be
We
my
saw
prediction.
we saw an interesting thing here. I don't know if you've seen this in your guys' markets, but the Oregon housing market is absolutely absurd right now. And on the build side, the new build areas, this just happened this week. They've all switched their models, and now they're releasing lots 2 at a time, and they're going to the highest bidder like you would on a house sale, traditional house sale. And so they're now like the 2 that were just released, and I only know this because we're looking for a house right now, but the 2 in this one neighborhood we were looking at, the lots haven't even been built on yet. They just released 2 of them yesterday, and they set their base price, and they've got 3 days, and they're going to go to the highest bidder. So they're doing the new build on a bidding process now, which is just going to really wreak havoc on the market.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna piggyback on something Dick said. You know, you talk to your clients and you want to talk positives. You don't want to talk price, but you're almost forced in every conversation repeatedly to reinforce what's happening cost-wise. Most of the classic distributor partners I've been talking to recently, it's all been focused on timelines. But now it's you're going to have to add that additional caveat of cost in there and repeat it, because they're always going to look back at what the costs were last year for a show or a build or transportation. And Dick, you and I have a mutual friend in the shipping business that is very knowledgeable, and you know, he warned us 6 weeks ago about what's happening, and it's come to fruition, and it's only going to get worse. So yeah, it's you don't want to have that sky is falling attitude, or you don't want to sell fear, but it's almost like we've got to that point where we can't help it. We have to do it that way.
Yeah. We're running up against the hour, but Gwen, I wanted you to give it a chance to weigh in.
Well, I just wanted to go back to what Rich said a second ago about how the clients are asking more of the exhibit house companies. In all the years I've been in this industry, I mean, we have really tried to, press on people to understand their clients' needs more and to really be that, like, hey, we can be the extension of your team. And I know a lot of companies don't have resources to do that, but this year more than ever, I mean, I've got a meeting tomorrow. Literally, that's what's happening. The client says, I have no team anymore. It's just me. And I want, you to accept the event request. If I approve it, then you guys go purchase the booth space for me and you plug in how much it's going to cost. And so they're basically making them look like the hero. Of course, if they're going to pay for that type of program, and of course, pharma type companies and that sort, of course, can usually have more of a budget than anybody else out there, versus other teams where I've seen a lot of just divisions being sold off. That was my meeting right before this call was, hey, we're selling this division as of June 1. They're on their own and they want their data on their own platform. So interesting, and just kind of seeing how all of this is happening. So, I mean, as far as the exhibit house side of it, of course, I can't speak to that in with the client expectations. But like I said earlier, I know we've quoted or provided pricing to a lot of companies that we're just waiting on approvals. And it is taking a longer time to get approvals because everybody's watching, now I'm getting pinged and saying, oh, gas shortage and everything else that's going on. It's like, what's next? And yes, the housing market in Texas, it's always been crazy, but it's even more so now. I mean, people are asking people on like Facebook communities, hey, if you're going to put a house on a market that's like this, please contact me before putting it on the market. And it's insane.
Yeah. It's all
and
the
people
people
buying it with cash. Coming
Yes.
from California, you can buy a house in Texas for, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can get you can get a palatial estates with some land for
Yes.
next to nothing in comparison to, you know, an apartment elsewhere.
It's crazy.
It is. It is.
Right, but you're also going to have a bunch of people who put their mortgage on deferment. That's going to end in July or something, right? And then I have a lot of friends, watch out for all the foreclosures that are going to be popping up in the next year.
That's what I'm waiting on. I
Yes.
want that one story with the pool, please. No, you know, the other thing that's interesting, so my husband works for NBC here, and it's companies that are buying homes.
Yeah.
So they might buy a house and that somebody actually lives in it, but the other house they might flip, resell, or rent out. So they're buying them in kind of bulk. It's interesting
So
on that note, they're following
my
that.
my cousin is moving to Frisco, Texas, and that's the name of it. And
It's on a
he ran into the exact same thing. So there's companies there, his company's based there, that are buying homes, but also some of them are buying them as come work for us and
Yep.
move here. We'll put you up for the first 6 months, and then if you want, you can buy the house. Or it can be a part of your comp package. So it's just wild. But
Yeah.
anyways, well, it was fantastic to see everybody.
Yeah.
Let's all stay busy. I know we will, and we'll send out a notice for next month. The part I'm looking forward to is next month is going to be a lot of us will know people who are on the ground in Las Vegas as some of these shows are kicking off, and it's going to be timing right around then. And so it'll be interesting to get some feedback on what it looks like, what it feels like, what attendance looks like. And I think it'll be fun. It'll be kind of fun to see what that looks like. Yeah. But until then, it was good to see you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Everybody.
Have a great rest of your week.
Hi, everybody.
You too.